So, Susan, what is going on with this canola market?
I think canola is finally just waking up and realizing that it's probably the biggest, or it is potentially the biggest winner in US biofuel policy changes anyway that we've seen here in 2026.
I heard a comment this week that the guy said, "Well, if you can't buy bean oil, you have to buy RINs. Like that is it. If you can't buy the bean oil physically, then you have to go buy a RIN." Is that in the background where canola's putting its hand up, say, "Hey, don't forget about us. Like you can buy us too." Like, is it something with that, or?
So I think the more important thing maybe to realize is that the higher that RINs go effectively, that means that the more that lifts the break even for various feedstocks. So canola oil, soybean oil included in that. Probably one of the reasons too on the canola side, you have to remember that canola is, there are some commodities that are wildly liquid in futures markets, like corn or wheat for the most part, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
canola is different. So you have two primary markets. So you have ICE Exchange, which is Canadian futures, and then you also have Euronext futures, or the European Matif futures. So
Yeah, rapeseed. Yep.
so the ICE Exchange is the one that is the most highly liquid, but a lot of canola and especially canola oil transactions, we're talking about a physical market, because we're talking about canola being the seed. And then we're over here trying to call it apples to apples, but it's really not, because it'd be the equivalent of the same thing as like the commodity soybeans. So I think you have to look at it from in that regard too. So the things that are happening right now, we have a record spread from a cash perspective for US soybean oil, the domestic price for it, versus what the equivalent would be in Argentina or Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a really wide spread there. So that's one thing. You have a cash soybean oil market in the US that's on fire, and it's because we're ramping up production of biomass-based diesels. They need every available feedstock they have. And soybean oil is the most readily, widely available. And so we're going to work to exhaust all of our supplies. And when the value of soybean oil like that in the cash market continues to move higher, canola oil is also a huge winner. So we just saw feedstock data for the month of March, because it's the government and they're very slow. But
Delayed. Yeah.
In that, we saw not only that soybean oil set an all-time record, not just a monthly record, but an all-time record as far as biofuel demand. Canola oil didn't set an all-time record, but its demand doubled month on month. And it was the highest demand since December 2024, which that was the point right before we fell off the cliff, when we were still utilizing the $1 blending tax credit. Didn't matter the carbon intensity of the fuel. And then we went to 25, where the U.S. effectively shut canola out of the U.S. biofuel market as a feedstock. And that is, we still use some, but not very much at all. And that was because it didn't qualify under 45Z. Now, fast forward to 2026. I almost said 2006. That's bad. 2026. And not only do you have canola oil is getting, I don't even remember what it is, maybe a 20-cent credit. Maybe it's not even quite that much per gallon of finished fuel, but it's getting a 45Z credit. Plus, remember, in the US, about 80% of our canola oil supplies are actually imported from Canada. So you also, it's benefiting in 45Z from that North America only feedstock provision. So it's winning that way. And then plus it's also, so 45Z gives it extra, it was like putting wind in the sails. And then you have this whole, when the RVO is finalized for 26 and 27, it's a more than 60% increase in demand. And so that means we have to fill it with something. Domestic soybean oil first, and canola oil is right there with it.
Argentina wouldn't qualify then, like to send soybean oil from Argentina to the US, or is that just kind of not doesn't flow or
Well, it's a combination of things. So there are some biofuel producers that are, and I believe it's like West Coast renewable diesel producers, that they have a pathway established in the renewable fuel standards. So for Argentine soybean oil to make renewable diesel or whatever it is. So pathway just means that it's officially they can generate a RIN with the fuel by making it
okay.
from. And Argentine soybean oil, it flows into Canada. It will flow into the west coast of the US when it does pencil. But the other piece of this is that there's a sense of urgency. We have, from a cash perspective, you have a feedstock market that's inverted because you're needing all of these feedstocks and we don't necessarily have them. Yeah, I had someone ask me yesterday about feedstock, like Argentine soybean oil coming into the US for renewables or for food or whatever it may be. And yeah, I mean, technically it pencils right now, but it penciling and it actually happening are two very different things. Keep in mind, it's not like we're importing, like you're importing fertilizer to put on a barge to send upriver. It's a little more, slightly more complicated. Either way, I think that, and one of the things too that I think is the reason the feedstock markets are moving higher, and it seems like going parabolic, like this is, it seems like it has no end. One of the bigger challenges is that we have import barriers. So, if you polled the audience, I'm not certain that anyone would be able to agree on exactly what tariff rate is being applied to various feedstocks that we're importing. So when you think about these higher volume feedstocks, for instance, like Brazilian beef tallow, which maybe in the past has been about 40% of our tallow supplies. Like we've imported a lot of tallow because fuels produced from tallow, it's a waste product. So it has a really low carbon intensity score and it used to be a high value in 45Z. Well, now it's restricted to US, Canada, and Mexico. So Brazilian tallow coming in, not only does it not get that 45Z credit anymore, but it's also, I see where we've proposed or that they're suggesting maybe we do a 25% tariff rate on some Brazilian goods starting in August. So that's the other part that makes this very messy. And one more thing I think that's really important to point out, not only do you have very high diesel heating oil prices, which also supports the biofuel margins. It supports, because it's every time diesel goes up, then you watch the margin, the margin for biofuel production increases to some extent. But the other part of that too is that you have a mess, especially in Europe, where they have very high biofuel blending mandates, and they're running out of jet fuel. They're running out of some of these higher value petroleum distillates, that kind of thing. They're in a supply crunch because of what's going on in Iran. So not only is the energy market providing support to anything that would be a veg oil or a fat or any type of feedstock, but you also have a really disjointed market where Europe is becoming a little bit of a vacuum. So we're actually exporting a lot of biodiesel at the moment. So that's some things that we're working on for the biofuel blast later this week. But yeah, it's a wild market. So we need all the biofuels that we can for RIN generation, but yet we're exporting to Europe because of the wild price differentials that we're seeing as a result of the Middle East. So this is really a combination of, it's kind of a perfect storm of policy and trade war plus real war is what you're seeing culminating here. And probably what's gone on the past few days with canola too. It's some, markets are trying to trade something weather related, be it maybe a rough start to the Canadian crop, be it seeding or too much water or whatever that may be. And then also, I guess you have to pivot and kind of look at what's going on in Australia. So those things, I think the world has the super El Nino on its mind, which also is typically not a good thing for Australian crops. So those are some of the underlying things that are all behind this. Let's get back to the guy that that was not being very kind to you as far as miss on the market. And this is us sitting here, though. We're talking about something that's happened, and we're talking about what's happened up until this point. Hindsight, we can talk about the things that are giving the market momentum or adding to the momentum. We don't know what tomorrow brings. You would have thought today was this nasty red. I almost wore this shirt bar chart gave me. It was something about I don't know, red days, build character, but the markets were just nasty today. And I think that probably caught a lot of people by surprise, especially because overnight we saw that Middle East conflict, it looks like, kind of erupted again while we're supposed to be on the skipping along our way to a ceasefire. So these are things that you see when the market is just, it's tired of the back and forth. And then all in all, we have a lack of a major weather story. And I think that's kind of those things all came together today.
Well, so you think, look at it this way for us as well up here in Canada. You've got the canola market doing something, special, right? We'll put in quotation, but something special.
It's special, yes.
And then
Trump month is almost 800, I think.
Yeah, everything else, not, right? Corn, beans, less degree, not as painful, but beans, wheat, our specialty crops, our pulses, not doing anything. So it's what is going on here? And there's been a lot of chatter about commodity super cycle and everything kind of going to the moon price wise and all this stuff. So I think that is in here a little bit. People are thinking about that anyway. The cool thing is that, this is the kind of that point where you've got your first sales are low and much lower than where the market's at today. You're not sure how to tackle your risk management, your hedges moving forward. You're feeling a little bit beat up. You haven't really been able to reward this thing or lift your averages and do all this stuff. So you're kind of caught, and then your crop's maybe under a bit of water or it's been a bit too dry. The Canadian crop is going to come along quite well, though, the way that I see it. But it's just uncomfortable kind of spot. And now it's what's coming, right? What's coming next? What can I do?
I like that you said uncomfortable. This brings me, I'm going back to my roots as a merchandiser for so long. So I just pulled up Nove canola. So 802. When is the last time that new crop canola is you would know better than me.
2023.
So you just said uncomfortable, right? So generally the best sales that you will make all year long are when you are the most uncomfortable. So, as a producer, the problem is I got this vibe earlier, talking to a Saskatchewan producer, Rob, who was echoing the same thing. Already, hedges are too low. I was telling him that a producer friend of mine a few years ago needed a new email address. So Kevin's email I set up, a Gmail, sold too soon at gmail.com. So if anyone wants to give Kevin a shout out, I guess on your worst day when you're looking at, no futures at 802 and you're thinking, I was the dumbass that sold. Oh, can I cuss on you? I was the guy that sold, $100 ago or whatever it may be. So I think that you have to ask yourself, and especially today was a day that new crop canola just jumped 2.6% one day. That's a big move in the world of canola. So I think you have to lean into it, and it again, those sales that where you're the most uncomfortable, you have to you have to make yourself or push yourself to get comfortable with it, because what are you
Yeah.
doing? You're making it for risk. This is a risk management decision. So go back and look at it on a per acre basis with an average yield. What did you just gain today? Why aren't you locking that in on another 5% or 10%? I don't know.
So
Probably,
that's,
I mean, a move like that, I would say that's a 10%. For me, if I was a canola farmer, I hope this
mhm.
doesn't go down as the worst podcast in the history of, it's probably going to go limit up tomorrow. And then I will be the one that looks like a fool, but
It maybe goes limit up and then comes back down by the time they check
that
this
is
out. So you might be okay.
very true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the thing about being uncomfortable, like you're right, like this, like here's the crime in all of this. Like here's the bad in all of this. So you've made your first sales. Yeah, let's call them $2 a bushel lower than where we're at. You made those first sales, and then your hedges, there's a bit of panic there because maybe you've been margin called, or you look at those and say, oh, those are nasty now, like the market's gone that much higher. And sometimes people will get out of those and say, I
Oh
don't
boy.
need this anymore, right? I'm going to get out of this. So then you take a loss on
Mm-mm.
there. And
Mm-mm.
then the crime in this is that you're frozen because you're uncomfortable. This passes you by, and you sit there and say, all right, well, you get to harvest and you're like, well, at least it's where I sold it at now. Like that's what
Yes.
happens. But
Okay.
the
So
crime
how,
is inaction in this period. Yeah.
how PG is this? So if,
Kids, if you're listening, you can
So
plug
when
your
you
ears.
just started to say lifting, and I guess you can bleep it out, but when you just
Yeah.
started to say lifting hedges, that, my friends, is how you triple dick something. So it's not. Have you heard that phrase?
There's another T-shirt idea. Yeah.
But you know what I mean, though. You
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
it, and you're like, oh my gosh, it went to 802 today. That means that those sales I made 2 months ago, those are horrible. I need to get out of them. I need to, you have all these things. You're trying to like justify it in your head. And at the
Hmm.
end of the day, what will happen is you will dig yourself into a bigger hole.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
there's two hats you can wear as a farmer. The one that tries to be the price predictor, or you can put the one on that's the risk manager. We don't like
Hmm.
the price predictor hat because that
Yeah.
that never goes well. So I don't know. I think
Well,
the market's giving an opportunity, and we are so long overdue in all oil feedstock type markets for a step back. I think that it's important to make sure that no matter how many tons of feedstocks we are going to need for the next X months or to get us out through 2027, I think you have to still be reminded that it's policy.
hmm
This is also something that, like soybean oil, it's very headline centric, and especially it's been a long time since we've had some sort of negative headline, but you have to keep in mind that, and I'm not saying that RINs need to take a nosedive. RINs are the mechanism, the cost of compliance.
hmm
And I'm not saying that they need to take a nosedive, but just as soon when you have a huge mandate and the cost of compliance is going parabolic, or it keeps increasing every day, that means the amount of refiners that are going to cry and say, this is causing me economic hardship to comply with the renewable fuel standard, we need a waiver. Those things are stacking up, I'm confident, and we're
hmm
just not hearing about them yet. So I think that we have to be very cautious, because one of these days we will see negative headlines and the market's going to go into correction mode.
Yeah. Is there anything policy wise, or I guess everything is, yeah, I was going to ask, is there anything that could stand out? You've already kind of covered it, but yeah, I'm trying to figure out what shoe could drop here, but maybe that's it. Maybe it's what you just said about waivers.
I'm not suggesting that anytime soon that tomorrow we're going to wake up and run into some sort of headwinds. But again, it's policy. And we are on a high priced island right here in the US as far as soybean oil goes. I don't
Yeah.
think that will change anytime soon. But I do think that it's just important to remind yourself that we're here because of the stroke of a pen.
And that ink is dried, right? We're good.
It's dried, yes. But it doesn't mean that you can't have that we won't eventually start to see pushback, even though it is technically set in stone through the end of 2027. The next big problem will be that they're going to start talking about 2028 and beyond. Looking at where RINs are today, looking at how much it costs to comply with the renewable fuel standard, I can guarantee you that it will be an uphill battle to see additional increases. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a wild. We have gotten ourselves into one. I mean, Donald said it himself. U.S. farmers get ready to sell a lot of product inside the U.S.
And
but
yeah, here you are.
Here we are.
Yeah. With how ugly kind of the corn and the wheat charts look, and even soybeans to some degree, like I don't know how long bean oil and canola can do it on their own either, right? Like,
yeah, that you bring up a good point, because we're marching along, and this is a lot of the reason that you've seen board crush margins go, to these record high
bonkers.
levels.
Yeah,
and it's because the product keeps moving higher, but the underlying commodity itself remains, flatline or moving lower. So
yeah, and even for us, canola basis with our crush plants, with our export markets, not great. Like we haven't seen much appreciation. Like,
yeah, it really, and maybe that's the reason too that canola is finally just waking up, because really, when you look at them, when you look at any market, it doesn't matter what commodity it is. You see basis and you see spreads. That's what works first, and then the board typically follows. So when you see that cash demand, then you're going to start to see futures react as well. And I guess you'll have a much better. I couldn't tell you anything about canola basis specifically, but crushers at this point are incentivized to run as hard as they can, just like in the US. The biggest challenge is getting rid of clearing the meal that you're producing, when it's really oil is the driver. Now, here in the US, we've had wild success getting rid of meal, continuing to clear meal. Which has really been nothing short of amazing. A combination of record strong domestic demand, thank you chickens, and then also exports. And the exports, that's a combination of the fact that we have cheap, we're able to continue discounting meal to export it, although US meal is more expensive than South America this time of year. But we've managed to move meal, which that's what's really helped keep kind of the soy complex intact.